بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Okay, let's get started inshallah. Slight delay of mine. Hadith number 36. Okay, so mashallah everyone, it's exciting knowing that we're coming towards the end of the book. For those who've been here from the beginning or near from the beginning, mashallah, it's really a great blessing to have gone through a whole book to finish something completely. So this is something which is mashallah very praiseworthy. Hadith number 36. Whoever relieves a believer. أن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: من نفس عن مؤمن قربة من قرب الدنيا نفس الله عنه قربة من قرب يوم القيامة. ومن يسر على معسر يسر الله عليه في الدنيا والآخرة. ومن ستر مسلما ستره الله في الدنيا والآخرة. والله في عون العبد ما كان العبد في عون أخيه. ومن سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. وما اجتمع قوم في بيت من بيوت الله يتلون كتاب الله ويتدارسونه بينهم إلا نزلت عليهم السكينة والغاشية هم الرحمة وحفت الملائكة وذكرهم الله في من عنده ومن بطأ به عمله لم يسرع به نسله. رواه مسلم بهذا اللفظ. Anybody want to volunteer for the English? MashaAllah, 2 volunteers. Let's have an American accent.
On the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, from the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, who said, whoever relieves a believer's distress of the distressful aspects of this world, Allah will rescue him from a difficulty of the difficulties of the hereafter. Whoever alleviates the situation of one in dire straits who cannot repay his debt, Allah will alleviate his lot in both this world and the hereafter. Whoever conceals the faults of a Muslim, Allah will conceal his faults in this life and the hereafter. Allah is helping the servant as long as the servant is helping his brother. Whoever follows a path in order to seek knowledge thereby, Allah will make easier for him due to it a path to paradise. No people gather together in a house of the houses of Allah, reciting the book of Allah and studying it among themselves, except that tranquility is descended upon them, mercy covers them, and the angels surround them, and Allah makes mention of them to those in His presence. Whoever is slowed by his deeds will not be hastened forward by his lineage. Recorded by Muslim with that wording.
Okay, very nice. Thank you very much. So very quickly, the general comments about this hadith is that this hadith contains the secrets or the ingredients on how to create Islamic brotherhood. Okay, how to create a society, and this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, to create a society, Muslim society, that people are brothers to one another, people live in a healthy society, and we are respectful and ta'awun al-birri wa taqwa, that we work together in goodness and that we abstain from any kind of bad or evil. So this hadith gives us a number of different ingredients on how we can do that. Let's start from the top, where the Prophet said, whoever relieves a believer's distress or of the distressful aspects of this world, Allah will rescue him from a difficulty or the difficulties of the hereafter. The first word in there, if you could circle or highlight it, is the word qurba. So the word qurba in Arabic, it means anything that is distressing the soul. It preoccupies the mind. Okay, so a person can be in a physical distress if he has, let's say, health problems. That's a qurba. A person could be in financial difficulties. Okay, that can be a qurba. A person could be even in spiritual difficulties. His iman is low. Her iman is low. This can also be considered to be a qurba. And anybody who helps a person who has a qurba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises that person that He will help them on the day of judgment, where there is no one's help except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. Now, how can you help someone? There are a number of different ways in which you can help someone. Number one is through knowledge. So how can you lift the qurba from a person? Depending on, obviously, upon his difficulty, you can use your knowledge, educate them, teach them. You can use your wealth. So if somebody is in financial difficulty, he has a debt, then you use your wealth to help him come out of that problem. And number three, you can also use your authority. Okay? So using your authority If you're in a position of authority and power, then you can use your authority. Okay, now, it may be good. So then the second part of the second word I'd like you to highlight, okay, if you just tell them the children's class is 1 o'clock. So the nafs, then the second word I would like for you to highlight is the word nafasa. Okay, nafasa literally means to breathe or to lighten the burden. Okay, so in this case, the Prophet is using metaphorical language to say nafasa, meaning that you breathe lighter, you'll be relieved. That this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will relieve you of any kind of difficulties that you are facing. Now, in this case, a person who helps another person who has a qurba, who has a difficulty, you're helping that person in this dunya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says He's going to help that person in the akhirah. But it's not just the akhirah, the greater meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also remove a difficulty from that person in this dunya as well as the akhirah. So if you help someone who's in a difficult situation, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will relieve you of your difficulty, not just in this world, but also in the hereafter. Now, from amongst the trials and tribulations of the akhirah, which you all are fully aware of, let's have a look at a few of them. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? يَعْرِقُ النَّاسُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ حَتَّى يَذْهَبُوا عَرَقُهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ 70 ذِرَاعًا وَيُلْجِمُهُمْ حَتَّى يَبْلُغُ آذَانَهُم. That Allah says that on that day, when we are standing in front of Allah, Allah is going to bring the sun very close to us, and everybody is going to be sweating according to their sins. Some people will be sweating, covering up to their ankles, some up to their knees, and some will be drowning in their sweat because of the amount of sin that they have. So, in one aspect of the hereafter where we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help is this time when we're standing in front of Allah. So, any good that you will do now, you will see it on that day. You will feel the relief when you are standing and you are sweating. Allah will make things easy for you then. Okay, so another very important difficulty or qurba, in my opinion, we find that many people are suffering from today, especially in this country, is the lack of Islamic values, okay, or to have a strong identity. So a Muslim living in such an environment, sometimes he struggles in identifying himself or herself. What's her values? How does she live? How does he live? How do they behave? What do they celebrate? What do they not celebrate? We're coming up to a festival in a couple of days or a week's time. Many Muslims are very confused about how to behave and how not to behave. So one of the biggest challenges, and I call this a qurba in my opinion, is the Islamic identity, okay? Especially in the West. And this is something that we need to try to overcome, educate people about what they are and what are the Islamic duties. Another very important aspect, which I consider also a qurba, a real hardship or a real difficulty, which many times people tend to overlook, is relieving Muslim prisoners. Okay, many times we find many Muslims around the world that are imprisoned for unjust reasons. They've been there for many years without trial, without evidence, and we tend to forget, or we tend to not talk about the subject because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. But this again is part of this belief. Whoever relieves a distress of a Muslim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove your distress in this world and in the hereafter. And one that comes to my mind, and only because recently I was reading, the case of, and all of you are aware of the sister, the Pakistani sister, Afia Siddiqui. Yeah? So I bring that to mind because that's an innocent doctor who is held in prison, and she has not been given trial or has not been given any form of, there's no evidence against her apart from accusations, and it's our job as Muslims. This is just one example, there are many examples, that we as Muslims need to be concerned about these matters, and we need to try to raise awareness and relieve people of their distresses. Okay. Let's move on with the hadith. Then Allah, the Prophet says, whoever removes the situation of one who is in dire difficulty, who cannot pay his debt, Allah will remove his lot in this world and in the hereafter. One of the common difficulties that people are found in is the financial difficulty. Okay, especially now in the system that we live in now, this capitalist system where all of us are drowning in debt, and we think the solution to debt is to take more debt and then to take another debt, and then you're found in a circle of vicious debt. Okay, and this is one of the biggest problems we find today. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that whoever relieves the debt of a person, Allah will remove their difficulties in their hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Al-mulku yawma'idhin al-haqqu lir-rahmani wa kana yawman 'ala al-kafirina 'asira. That on that day only Allah has the power to bring forth His mercy and to save you on that day. So we know that one of the ways to attain Allah's rahmah, okay, is to help a believer, to help those that are in difficulty. There's two ways in which you can help a person who is in debt. Your most obvious, one of them is
Pay off the debt.
pay off the debt. Okay, so if you're able to help someone in paying off the debt, you can help them pay off the debt. And also, this is part of one of the 8 categories of people who are deserving of zakat. The person who's in severe debt, severe legitimate debt, that is unable to pay, he is also eligible to apply for zakat money to get him out of that debt. Okay, so the first is to try to pay another person's debt if you can. The second thing, how you can relieve a person's debt, is you can loan them money as well. That's true, yeah. So you can loan them money as well. Or what I was trying to get to is, if you're the person who is entitled to the debt, the person who owes you money, give them more time. Okay. Or if you have the ability, you're in a strong financial position, reduce the debt upon them. Okay. So this is one way in which you can help another Muslim brother. And obviously, all of these things we're talking in genuine cases, not people who are just trying to get out of the situation. But helping a person who's in financial difficulty is one of the most rewarding matters in this world and in the hereafter. Okay, good. In one hadith, the Prophet he made mention of a man. He made mention of a man. He said, "يقول مات رجل." A man died. فقيل له. It was said to him, قال كنت أبايع الناس فأتجوز عن المعسر. He said, I used to trade with people. I was a businessman, but I used to always overlook the person who I saw who was in financial difficulties. If I saw a generation, I used to overlook him. وخفف عن المعسر فغفر له. And then the Prophet said, this man, because he used to trade and see those who were in real financial difficulties, and he used to let them go. He didn't used to ask for his money back. The Prophet said, this man is forgiven, he will enter into Jannah. Okay? So looking after people's financial situation is also very important. The next point is, whoever conceals the faults of a Muslim, Allah will conceal his faults in this life and in the hereafter. We've talked about this before, but it's very easy. Man satara awrata akhihi al-Muslim, satara Allah awratu yawm al-qiyamah. Whoever covers the faults of his brother in this world, Allah will cover your faults in the hereafter. Okay? وَمَنْ كَشَفَ عَوْرَةَ أَخِيهِ الْمُسْلِمِ كَشَفَ اللَّهُ عَوْرَاتُهُ حَتَّى يَفْضَحْهُ بِهِ فِي بَيْتِهِ. That another person, the Prophet said, whoever intentionally goes and exposes people's weaknesses and then tells other people about their weaknesses, the Prophet said, Allah will expose this person in this world and the hereafter. He said, يَفْضَحْهُ بِهِ فِي بَيْتِهِ. Until even in his own house, everybody will know the evil or the sins that he does. So we are not people that look into people's affairs, rather the opposite. We try to cover as many of people's mistakes as we can. And the very famous story, we've spoken about the story before, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُحِبُّونَ أَن تَشِيَ الْفَاحِشَةُ فِي الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ فِي الدُّنْيا وَالْآخِرَةِ. So in Surah An-Nur, who remembers, we said, there's a story inside of Surah An-Nur where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about a group of people that took slander and backbite and they spread it amongst the people until there was a lot of fitna amongst the people in Medina. What was the story? Yeah, story of the story of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala. Okay, the accusations or the lies that were made against her character, that she had committed an evil crime. It started off with just one person spreading the news, and it spread so much that the community became divided, and even the Prophet himself became worried about what was taking place. So what the damage the tongue can do sometimes is more than what the hands can do. So we have to be very careful in what we say. Furthermore, one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beautiful names from amongst his 99 names that he has given us, Asma wa Sifat, is As-Sittir. Okay, so worth writing this name down. His name is As-Sittir. As-Sittir means he is the one who covers people's mistakes. Okay, and I've mentioned this before, that when it comes to Aqidah, or when it comes to the Asma wa Sifat, the names and attributes of Allah, The whole purpose of the names and attributes of Allah is that you learn them, you memorize them, and you use them in dua. Okay? You use them in dua. That's the whole purpose. The whole ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a knowledge that should take you closer to Allah. That's the whole point of aqidah. If the knowledge of aqidah that you are attaining is just used to debate and to argue and to cause division and make your own groups, then you have not understood aqidah. That is not the reason why Allah gave you this science. It is to draw closer to Allah Almighty. Okay? So we use a sittir when we make dua. Oh Allah, a sittir. So we use this name, we ask, oh Allah, forgive us of our sins or keep my sins a secret. You know, I'm weakness. You know, another hadith, the Prophet said, Man asa'a sirran, a person who has done something wrong in secret. Okay? فَلْيَتُبْ سِرًّا, that he should make tawbah in secret as well. He's made a mistake, it's between him and Allah. He should also make a secret, he should make a tawbah secret. وَمَنْ أَسَاءَ عَلَانِيَةً فَلْيَتُبْ عَلَانِيَةً. If a person made an open sin in front of the people, then he needs to openly come out and apologize for that mistake. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرْ وَلَا يُعَيِّرْ. That Allah loves to forgive and He doesn't like to criticize or expose people. Okay? Whereas وَالنَّاسُ يُعَيِّرُونَ وَلَا يَغْفِرُونَ. Whereas the people are the opposite. If people find out you made a mistake, you will find it broadcasted and spread all amongst the community before you even get home. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does the opposite. He wants to cover it. Okay? So you should be very careful. How many times a person who, we're all humans, a person has done so much good in the community, but he's a human being and he makes a mistake. That all the years of good that he's doing gets ignored, and that one mistake that he made, that gets publicized, and that gets to all parts of the world. Okay? Because the nature of us humans, we like to talk, and we like to look at people's weaknesses. Okay? So we should learn to overlook. We're all humans, we all make mistakes. Especially, you know, when it comes to people, there are two types of people. You have the ulama, or you have the scholars, or the learned people, or people generally, you know, people of piety, you know, the good people, they're regular with the deen, they're practicing the deen. These kind of people, they're humans as well. But if they make a mistake, you should be very reluctant. You shouldn't try to indulge and try to spread and try to talk about that. Leave it aside. Because you know the man or the woman is involved in greater good and he's made a mistake. Whereas a person who's known to be an open sinner, for example, he's known amongst everybody, he goes out and he drinks. Now if you were to rebuke him or to say something about his drinking, then that's a different story because he's openly doing that. Okay? Whereas a person who is known to do righteousness and goodness, we should try to be hasty in overlooking the mistakes. Because it's not the person that you're talking about, but many times it's the knowledge that you're talking about. So if you criticize the action that he's done, sometimes someone will connect that with Islam, and they'll say, this is what Islam teaches. But it's not what Islam is, it's his or her mistake. So we have to understand that. And of course, if somebody makes a sin with regards to another person's rights, then that also has to be discussed and has to be reprimanded. So for example, if a person missed a prayer, you saw him, he didn't get up to go and pray. That's between him and his Lord. Yeah? You're going to tell him, and it's between him and his Lord. But if you saw a person clearly steal out of another person's pocket, then you can obviously get up and say that person stole, because that's involving another person's rights. Okay? Good. All right, good. Also, with regards to the issues of authority, in an Islamic situation where we talked before, you have a qadi, you have a judge. If a case is brought to the attention of the qadi, in this case, in an Islamic governance, then the qadi has to give a ruling. He cannot overlook it. So if a person, for example, has made a mistake and they've committed zina, for example, and they go to the qadi, the judge, to seek a ruling, then the qadi has to give the ruling. If that person didn't take it to the qadi and kept it between him and Allah and made tawbah, this is perfectly acceptable. Rather, this is what the Prophet said. He said, just make tawbah and let it be. But if you take the case to the authorities, then the Islamic ruling is that that case has to be dealt with. And that person has to be given some form of punishment. Okay. And this happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when a woman had stolen something, and the Quraysh were concerned about this woman. They therefore asked Usama bin Zayd, and you've heard of this story, there's a woman who stole, and she was from amongst the elite. She was a very rich and powerful woman at that time, from amongst the tribes, and they knew what her punishment was. If it gets known and the news reaches the Prophet ﷺ, they know what the punishment is, and they're going to cut off her hands. So they went to the companion Usama bin Zayd, and they said to Usama bin Zayd, you're very close to the Prophet ﷺ, go speak to him and let her off. Yeah, maybe she's very powerful, so we don't have to see that. So he went to the Prophet and he spoke on her behalf, asking the Prophet to let it slide so she's not punished. Then the Prophet he responded, and his response was very, very harsh. And he said, أتشفع في حد من حدود الله ثم قام فاختطب ثم قال إنما أهلك الذين قبلكم أنهم كانوا إذا سرق فيهم الشريف تركوا. His Prophet said, this is the very reason that nations before you were destroyed. That the rich amongst you would commit crimes and they would get away with it. And the poor amongst you would commit crimes and you would deal with them and apply the hudud upon them. So he said, وَإِذَا سَرَقَ فِيهِمُ الضَّعِيفُ أَقَامُوا عَلَيْهِ الْحَدِّ. And he said, if the poor person stole, then you would apply the Islamic ruling upon them and cut off their hands. And we see that today. And then the last statement he said was the really most powerful part. What did he say? He said, وَاللَّهِ لو أن فاطمة بنت محمد سرقت لقطعت يدها. That even if my daughter stole, I would cut off her own hand. Okay? This is the level of justice that we have to implement. It's not about giving priority to your friends and your families or those who are rich. No, the rule applies equally to all people. And here the Prophet is making it very clear that even if my daughter did that, then I would cut off her hand. Okay. Also, when we're talking about people making mistakes, the Prophet he said that all people will be forgiven except for إِلَّا al-mujahirin. And the mujahirin, we spoke about them before, are those people that commit sins and then they do what? They show off. They brag about their mistakes. So when they're sitting amongst people, they say, I did this and I did that. And he's practicing or she's practicing. Or another type is a person who maybe he wasn't Muslim and then became Muslim, or wasn't practicing and then became practicing. And then when he's sitting with his friends, he will show off about what he used to do before he was practicing. Okay? Maybe he said, oh, I used to go to that party, that club, I used to have this many girlfriends, or whatever, and show off. This is part of mujahirin. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has concealed something that you've done in your previous life or past life, then you should keep that covered. Okay? These type of people, the Prophet said, they will not be forgiven because Allah covers them and then they go out of their way to show their sins. Then in the next part of the hadith, Allah is helping the servant as long as the servant is helping his brother. So in an ideal Islamic society, we apply this ayah, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Allah commands us, ta'awanu, that work together with one another in doing goodness and spreading goodness in your societies. وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. And do not work with one another to spread mischief and to cause any kind of evil. Okay, so it's another very beautiful story that Anas narrated that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that once they were on a journey and the companions were fasting while the others were not. So the companions were of two camps. Some of them were fasting, some of them were not. They were on a journey. Those who were fasting became weak and were unable to perform the chores that one needs to perform while traveling, such as preparing the food, feeding the animals, and so forth. Those who were not fasting tended to the needs of everyone. Although fasting is a deed that is extremely pleasing to Allah, in this case, what did the Prophet say? Two people who are fasting. One group was unable to do their jobs because they were fasting. Another group were unable, who were not fasting. They were serving the needs of the people fasting and the others. What did the Prophet say? He said, in this case, he said, verily, those who are not fasting have taken all the reward. Okay? Verily, those who are not fasting have taken all the reward, because they were helping those who were fasting. Now that doesn't put down fasting. That doesn't put down fasting, but what it does mean is that in this case they were unable to do their duty. So because they were trying to do an act of ibadah, they had a shortcoming on another side. Okay? So if you're going to do additional acts of ibadah, you cannot let that affect you on another side. Okay? So that's why the other people, they were able to fulfill their rights as well as this. So they got double the reward. Okay? So we find that. Okay. In fact, even after becoming rulers, people like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Umar ibn Khattab, they used to serve the people. They wanted to remove difficulties from all people. Amongst the Arabs, it was considered very bad for women to milk animals. Therefore, subhanAllah, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, while he was the leader of the Muslims, can you imagine that he would go to the houses where women, they didn't have a husband or they had animals, they needed to milk the animals. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq himself, as the leader of the Muslims, He would go to their houses and he would milk the animals for them and give them their milk. This was the behavior of the leader of real men, we should say, how they used to look after widows and how they used to look after women that were in difficult situations. Okay. In a very beautiful statement, when Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he became a leader, he became the leader of the Muslims, he gave a very powerful speech. And in his speech, really, this speech should be written in gold and given out to all the leaders of the world. I'll read it to you in brief. He said, I have been given the authority over you, and I am not the best of you. If I do well, help me. So this is the same thing in the topic that we're talking about. So if he does well, he said, help me. And if I do wrong, then set me straight. Okay? Sincere reward for truth is loyalty, and disregard for truth is treachery. The weak among you shall be strong with me until I have secured his rights, if God wills. And the strong amongst you shall be weak with me until their rights are distributed. Then the last part, he said, I have worked hard with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so obey me as long as I obey Allah and His Messenger, but if I disobey Allah and His Messenger, then set me straight, do not obey me. This is the statement of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, that obedience to the leader is only when it's obedience to Allah and His Messenger. And this fits in with our discussion, that as long as you're in the service and the need of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in your service and in your need as well. Okay, the next part of the hadith. Whoever follows a path in order to seek knowledge, thereby Allah will make easy for him a path to paradise. This part of the hadith is a very, very important part, and this is an encouragement for talibul ilm, to seek knowledge. If you look at all the things we've spoken about so far, if you go back to the beginning of the hadith, and if you number all the bits of advice, so if you go back, if I can ask you all to go back to the hadith, what's the first advice he gave?
Relieve the believer's distress.
Okay, so the first thing he said was, relieve a believer's distress. So that's number one. So trying to build an ideal society, number one, the first thing is to relieve a believer's distress. That's number one. Then what was the second thing?
Alleviate someone's debt.
Good, okay, so alleviate the who cannot pay his debt. So second thing is the removal of debt. And then?
Conceal the faults of the Muslim.
Very good. So third one is concealing the faults of the Muslim. Okay, and then?
Seeking knowledge.
Okay, good, yeah. So then the next one is now seeking knowledge. See how it all ties in. If you want an ideal society, these are the steps that you need to take. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to seek knowledge. So this really applies to all of us. Here the hadith, it translates as those people who are following a path to seek knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make easy their way into Jannah. And this taking the way is, for example, some of you, it's Sunday morning, yeah, making it more practical. It's Sunday morning, there's many things people can do today, but you guys have decided to leave whatever it is that you can do to come here and to learn some Islam, hopefully, okay? And we are all trying our best to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever takes a path, whether you jump in your cars or your buses or you walked, whoever took a path to learn some Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that, or the Prophet ﷺ tells us that He will create a path for him towards Jannah. He will create an easy path for him towards Jannah. Why? Because you are coming to him, so He's opening ways for you to get to Jannah. The fourth advice. Yeah.
The first thing, you have to look after each other first.
Yeah.
Amazing. Sometimes you run out of knowledge. Get everyone else.
That's true. I'm coming to that point as well. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so we start off with helping one another, so it's more of a communal thing, and now it becomes an individual thing where you are seeking knowledge. So yeah, so we see that coming and learning knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He will build a path for you to enter into Jannah. Listen to Allah says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Allah says, I have made easy for you the Quran. I have made easy for you for the Quran. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. So is there any of you who really takes the Quran seriously and tries to learn it? It's an easy science. Then furthermore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَيَزِيدُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا هُدًى. That a person who seeks knowledge, who gains a little bit of knowledge, then Allah increases him in His guidance. The little bit of knowledge you get is almost like a light bulb. Okay? Without knowledge, it's very dim. It's not turning on. Then you learn a little bit of knowledge, the dimmer goes up a little bit. You get a bit more light. The more Islam you learn, the more light you have, and you can see what's around you. You can see what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, how to bring up your children, how to be with your parents. Everything starts to become clearer. What's going to happen in the akhirah, everything starts to make sense. You're no longer living in doubt. You actually start filling it up with knowledge. So Allah says, those who learn a little bit of knowledge, Allah then gives them a little bit more guidance. وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدُوا زَادَهُمْ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَى. While as for those who accept guidance, Allah increases their guidance and takes them onto the correct path. Okay. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. That verily those people who have true khashiyah, the fear of Allah, okay, those people who truly fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are they? He said, مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. They are the ulama. Now ulama here doesn't literally mean the scholars. Ulama means anyone who has any kind of knowledge. Okay, so if you understand the subject, you truly will have khashiyah of that. An example, when you're praying, you know, as kids, as you're growing up and you're learning to pray, you don't have a clue what you're saying. Okay, you're just praying because you know your mum or dad are watching you, and if you don't, you're going to be in trouble. So you pray. As you get older, if you take it seriously, you start to learn what it means. You learn what Allahu Akbar means. Allah is the greatest. So when the next time you understand who you're standing in front of. When you're reading اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, and you realize that the sirat that you're talking about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, in the hereafter we will stand on a bridge, we will cross a bridge. He said the bridge will be as thin as a hair and as sharp as a blade. And under this bridge will be the hellfire. And those people who lived as good Muslims, righteous Muslims, trying their best, they will cross this bridge like the speed of lightning. And those Muslims who lived on the edge, sometimes practicing, sometimes not taking things seriously, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us these people will fall. And as they fall, they will hurt themselves, they will cut themselves, they will burn from the flames coming from underneath the bridge. They will make it to the other side, but they'll be extremely injured and very tired, but they'll make it to the other side. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us those who disbelieved in Allah and His Messenger, they will go to this bridge and they will fall head first into the hellfire. May Allah protect us from that. So when you think of the salat like that, next time you're standing on doing Fatiha, your prayer will be very different. Your prayer will be very different. So that's how knowledge will increase you and draw you closer to Allah. And that's the meaning of إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Because now you're understanding what you are saying and what you believe in. Furthermore, the concept of seeking knowledge, the Prophet he said, مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ وَإِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. That if Allah wants good for you, and remember this key, if Allah wants good for you, the Prophet didn't say He will give him 10 houses. He didn't say to him He will give him 4 wives. He didn't say to him He will give him X, Y, and Z. What did He say? مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. That He will not just have an understanding, but the word fiqh means a comprehensive understanding of the deen. If Allah wants good for you, He will put that into your heart. You'll have an understanding of what is the deen. And He said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ, verily knowledge is only gained through learning. Okay? And learning is a very slow process where you have to listen, sometimes to boring speakers, sometimes to interesting speakers, but you have to listen and you have to read and you have to take notes. This is how you're going to learn. Furthermore, the Prophet said, طَالَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيدَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. That learning and seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. Now, a question here on this hadith, the Prophet said that seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. Now, does that mean every single Muslim has to become a scholar?
No.
How do we understand that hadith? If the Prophet is saying that everyone has to, everyone has to seek knowledge, and you're saying that everyone doesn't have to be a scholar, so how do you reconcile these two?
He didn't specify which knowledge, so it could be knowledge of engineering.
Okay, that's a good point, but I'll confine it. This is specifically talking about Islamic knowledge. It's not negating other knowledge as well, but that's secondary. Primary knowledge is when knowledge is spoken about generally in the Quran, so let's talk about Islamic knowledge, and the other knowledge follows up.
I think it's not overwhelming and stuff, so whatever your sphere of, you can access
Good.
without,
Yeah.
like taking it to extreme. I think that's the problem nowadays, because the young people, like I'm a housewife, so I would say, well, what do you do all day? But
Yeah.
I think, you end up, there's a lot of conflict, isn't there, going on?
Good, we're getting closer to the answer. So, sister is saying you have a circle of influence, your circle of influence, that's fard upon you. Okay, good. What else? Islah between people, okay. So, having knowledge of connecting people. Alright, I'll make it easy for you. There are two types of knowledge. There is fard ayn and fard kifaya. Fard ayn are things that you must know. For example, how to read Quran, how to pray, okay, how to make wudu, how to make ghusl, how to do hajj, how to do fasting, okay. If you're involved in certain fields, for example, you're a businessman, you have to know the rulings of buying and selling. How can you go into a field? This is where what you're talking about, your circle of influence. If you're a doctor, for example, then you have to understand the ethics behind medicine, and that's fard upon you. You have to do that. So things that are fard ayn are those things that are directly pertaining to you and Allah, and then your speciality. So if you're a doctor, you've got to understand the rules pertaining to medicine. If you're, I don't know what other field, if you're working in the finance sector, okay, so you have to understand, and that's fard upon you. It's not a choice. You have to learn the rules of that science that you're in. And then the second type of knowledge, which is fard kifaya, for example, the details of the sharia. So like fatwas, understanding, is this halal, is this haram, the details, that's not obligatory for everyone. That's for a few people, okay? So a few of those who learn it in your society is sufficient. Not everybody is expected to be on that level. Quite the opposite. Yeah, so I'm saying you could come together and rectify people's recitations. You read and someone corrects, okay? That's one way of doing. Okay, good. So that's the importance of seeking knowledge. Now, Ibn Abbas, we spoke about Ibn Abbas before, right? And what did we say about Ibn Abbas? Ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, what did we say about Ibn Abbas? What was his speciality?
He was given the knowledge of tafsir.
Good, very good. Ibn Abbas was one of those, the Prophet ﷺ made a special dua for him and said, Ya Allah, give him the understanding of the Quran. And he had a very deep understanding of the Quran. That's why when we read tafsir and we find the statements of Ibn Abbas on an ayah, we take it very seriously. Okay? Because he's been given a special skill and quality for learning the Quran. Look also at the example of Ibn Abbas. He's got the skill of Quran. How did he attain this skill? What was the journey that he made? Ibn Abbas, he would come and he would sit outside the houses of the senior companions, those who had knowledge, because he was a young man when he was with the Prophet. He would wait outside their doors, sit on the floor, waiting for them to come out. When they come out of their houses, he'd quickly take the opportunity and start asking questions and writing things down. This was Ibn Abbas. That's how he got to the level he was. If you want to learn Islam, you have to take it seriously. Islam is not going to come knocking on your door. You have to go and find it. Okay? When we look at the lives of the companions, subhanAllah, people gave their lives up for the sake of Islam. They traveled from one country to another country just to hear one hadith. And now we can get an application and get the whole of Bukhari and Muslim and Ibn Majah and Nasa'i and Tirmidhi all in one application. And we don't open it. Okay? So this is the difference. They would travel on donkeys and camels and horses just to listen to one hadith. And now we have the same knowledge. But it's interesting to note that at that time their access to knowledge was very limited. But yet they were the perfect society, or nearly the perfect society. Now, knowledge we have at our fingertips, but we are quite the opposite when it comes to our ethics, our morals, and where do we stand as a community or as a nation. Why that? Why is it that conflict? When you have more knowledge or access to more knowledge, there's no one taking it serious. When you have limited access, there's people taking it very, very serious. Okay, something to think about. Okay. Abu Huraira is reported that Abu Huraira every night he would split his night up into 3 thirds. He said, my first third of my night I would give for my sleep, my second third of my night I would give for praying, and the third of my night I would spend learning and reading Islam. I would spend studying. Okay? And in some cases the Prophet actually said that the learning of Islam is a greater ibadah than other ibadahs. Okay? So a person who spends his night reading and learning about Islam is more rewarded than a person standing up and praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I'm not putting down tahajjud or qiyamul layl. This is very, very important. You can see Abu Hurairah did both. But just quickly, why would you think that the Prophet is saying that learning Islamic knowledge is more virtuous than doing acts of ibadah? If you could do both, that's the best. But I'm saying, why would you think that would be the case?
I think because what you're doing in Qiyamul Layl, it's between you and Allah, it's individual.
Good.
When you're learning Quran and Islam, it means you're spreading the knowledge to others.
Very good. That's it, yeah. 10 out of 10, perfect. So that's the answer. Okay? When you're doing ibadat, it's between you and Allah, which is praiseworthy. You're bringing yourself closer to Allah. But when you're learning, you're going to remove misconceptions from society. You're going to raise the standard of your family. You're going to do, you know what's right and what's wrong. You're not going to get involved in bid'at and shirk. You're going to be doing sunnah and doing good things. So seeking of the knowledge is very praiseworthy. Imam Bukhari, he recorded in Sahih that Jabir ibn Abdullah, he traveled for 1 month to get a single hadith from Abdullah ibn Anas. In another version, recorded in Tabarani, it states that Jabir said, I used to hear a hadith on the authority of the Prophet ﷺ about retribution. And the one who narrated that hadith directly from the Prophet ﷺ was in Egypt. So I bought a camel and I traveled all the way to Egypt just to hear the hadith. Okay. Now the important thing here is that Jabir ibn Abdullah, he knew the hadith already. He knew the hadith already. But what the secret is here, you know that in hadith you have the text and then you have a chain. Like the person who's giving you that hadith, he's heard it from someone, that person heard it from someone, that person heard it from someone, and that person heard it from the Prophet. This person, he's heard the hadith before, but he heard it from someone who heard it from someone who heard it from the Prophet. So there was 3 people before the Prophet. He said he knew a person who heard it directly from the Prophet, or one person. He wanted to cut out just one person from the chain so that he could have his name more closer to the Prophet, get rid of one name. So just to get rid of that one name in the chain, he bought a camel. And buying a camel, guys, is like buying a Ferrari. The camels are very expensive. So he went out and he bought a camel and then traveled all the way to Egypt just to hear that hadith and remove that one person so he gets one step closer to the Prophet. That's what he did. Yeah? That's the level of how much they love Islam and how much they love the deen and wanted to spread Islam. If you want a perfect society, these are how this is how our heart should behave, and our love and our desire for learning and spreading Islam. The companion Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, he traveled all the way to Egypt to ask Uqba bin Amr about one hadith. He told Uqba that only he and Uqba were left who had heard the hadith, and that particular hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. So he left Egypt and went all the way to Medina just to hear this one hadith. Okay. One of the famous scholars, Yahya ibn Abu al-Kathir, he said, knowledge is not acquired with laziness. You are not going to get to that level except that you fight your nafs, you fight your soul, and you really struggle and strive to learn the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many a times people, the attitude we have today is that knowledge is going to come to us because we have so many TV channels and internet, so we're going to, just by watching them, we're going to gain, you will gain the knowledge. But to truly climb that ladder, okay, of being more knowledgeable in Islam, you have to make a sacrifice and you have to go to these circles and you have to learn. Then the latter part of the hadith, the Prophet said, no people gathered together in a house of the houses of Allah, reciting the book of Allah, studying amongst themselves. In this part here, firstly, the Prophet he generally said those who seek knowledge, okay, that they are praiseworthy and Allah will open a path for them to Jannah. Then after talking about knowledge generally, he specified a particular knowledge. The best of knowledge is which knowledge? So we said Islamic knowledge, but inside Islamic knowledge, there's one, not just Tilawat al-Quran, but Quran. Okay? So learning any science dealing with the Quran is very, very important and is praiseworthy. And the Prophet said, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَ. The best of you are the ones who learn Quran and teach the Quran. They are the best of people. Allah says, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ إِلَيْكَ مُبَارَكًا يَتَدَبَّرُ آيَاتِهِ وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. He said that we have revealed to this Quran as a mubarak, as a blessing. Okay? لِيَتَدَبَّرُ, so that you ponder and contemplate. So one of the other things that we find, many times people, they read Quran, okay, read a juz, read a para, 2 para, they read it, which is praiseworthy and you get lots of reward. Well, but what is even better than that? What does atadabbur mean? To contemplate. To actually understand what you read. If you understand Arabic, great. If not, in your own language, get the translation and read and understand what you're saying. And that's more praiseworthy than just reading. Reading is good as well. But at the same time, understanding what you're reading is much more important. Okay? So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, we have given you a Quran, why لِتَدَبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ. So you think about those ayat, and He said, those who think about it, they are all al-albab. They are the ones who are men of understanding. Okay? So the job of the Quran is not just that it's read, but that it's understood.
We try to read for the tajweed more Quran than the
Yeah. Okay, I want to answer the question at the end. It'll remind me, inshallah. Okay, then furthermore, the Quran is also made mention inside the Quran as a dhikr. Allah mentions the Quran as dhikr. وَاتْلُ مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَأَقِمَ الصَّلَاةَ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ. The dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the dhikr, the greatest dhikr that you can say subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, but the greatest of dhikr is actually reciting the Quran. Okay? In this way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to the Quran as dhikrullah. Okay? So the best form of dhikr is to recite the Quran. Alright, very good. Okay, so now I want to briefly have a look at something. So let's talk about knowledge for a second and the Quran in specific. So we said that the knowledge of the Quran is the most important knowledge, right? What sciences fall under Quran? What subjects can we study when it comes to Quran? Should I write from the board? Okay, so if you have Quran, okay, good. What sciences fall under Quran? So Auntie said tilawat a few times, so recitation. Okay, so you've got the science of recitation. So the science of recitation will include the reciting, and how do we recite correctly? Tajweed. Okay. Tajweed. Okay. So the science of Tajweed. Now the science of Tajweed, is that optional or is that obligatory? What do you think? Everyone's quiet. It's obligatory. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean all of us have to be like Abdul Basit. Okay? That's not what's being said. So when it's obligatory, is that you recite properly. If you don't recite it properly, you will change the meaning.
Yeah.
If you make a fatha into dhamma, if you understand Arabic, the fatha into dhamma, dhamma into fatha, you change the meaning. Okay? So you have to be very careful that you say the right thing. Now, the perfection of tajweed, that's an option. But reciting Quran properly is obligatory. So everybody in this room, if your tajweed is not correct, you need to start taking tajweed classes. Okay? Find a teacher and take tajweed classes. So you're reciting, I'm talking about the basics. Okay? That you understand and you recite Quran correctly. So that's the first science of the Quran. Okay? So on the day of judgment now, you know you're going to be asked about tajweed, no excuses. So number two, I'm doing my job, you got to do your job. Okay, number two, another science relating to the Quran. Fiqh, yeah, that's good. Okay, good. So we said fiqh, which I'll come to in a second. That's very broad. And then someone said, what was it? Tafsir. Is there anything else? Am I missing anything? There's one more. Okay, and it's the sciences of the Quran. Okay, so the fiqh of the Quran, what they call this is ayatul ahkam. Okay, ayatul ahkam. Okay, ayatul ahkam means you go through the Quran and all the ayat inside the Quran which deal with rulings. Okay, so not the ones that are dealing with stories, not the ones that are dealing with aqidah like the hereafter, Jannah, no, just the ones that are dealing with rulings. Okay, anything that has ahkam in it. These are part of this is science, especially for the Quran. So take note of that. Once again, the ruling on ayatul ahkam, it's those things that are pertaining to your life. Okay, there's some ayatul ahkam that maybe they're not so. For example, the ayat of divorce. Okay, if a man's not married, that's not obligatory for him to know yet. Okay, so there's things that he might need to know, might not need to know. So ayatul ahkam are verses in the Quran that deal with rulings. Okay, so you can get books that are called ayatul ahkam, just verses that have that. And maybe inshallah, as we get towards the end of this book, we'll discuss with everybody what book they would like to study next. This is a good subject as well, but it's very technical, so I need to make sure you're awake as well. Alright, tafsir. Okay, tafsir. You know what tafsir means. There's two types of tafsir. Okay. How do you say in English? Arabic is al-riwayah. Okay. There's one type of hadith which is known as al-riwayah, and there's another which is known as al-ra'i. Okay. These two types of tafsir, both of them are praiseworthy. This one I give it number 1 because this one's more praiseworthy than that one. What's the difference? There's certain tafsir. Give me some examples, guys, of a tafsir that you've read. Or you Ibn Kathir one. Okay, good. And someone else?
تفهيم القرآن.
Okay, Tafhim al-Quran by Maulana Maududi. Okay. Anyone else? Any other tafsir, guys?
Yusuf.
Okay, that's the translation, yes, of Muhammad Yusuf, yeah.
تدبر القرآن.
Who's that by?
I think it's probably.
Dr. Islam, okay, good. I'm not aware of that one, but yeah, Dr. Islam. Okay, there's many tafsir, the tafsir of Qurtubi, the tafsir of Tabari, the tafsir of Sa'adi, there's loads of tafsir, there's just non-stop tafsir. But the point is, these are the two types of tafsir. This one is given preference. Why is it called al-riwayah? Al-riwayah are those type of tafsir that give you the ayah, and then they give you the corresponding ayat or ahadith that are connected to this ayah. Okay? So they call it tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran. So any verses that are interconnected, they'll be put together. So this verse is connected with this verse, so they put the verses together. And any hadith that came about as a result of that ayah will be given. And a good example of al-riwayah is Ibn Kathir. Okay? So if those people who are very familiar with Tafsir Ibn Kathir, you'll find he comes with the ayah, and then you have hadith, hadith, hadith. Because these hadith are talking about that verse. And you have very minimal commentary. Like his input to the tafsir is very minimal. It's more like an encyclopedia. These are known as al-riwayah. So you have the verse and hadith connecting to it, very minimal commentary. These are known as al-riwayah, and they are in first place, okay? Because of the fact that they have minimal human interaction in it, and it's got all text involved. But at the same time, even though this one is the best form of tafsir, it is also a difficult tafsir to understand, because not everybody will be comfortable with that, because you don't know exactly the hadith. So then you need explanation of the hadith in order to get explanation of the ayat. So it depends on your level as well. Okay, but in terms of the ranking, that's the greater of the tafsir. And then you have a tafsir al-ra'i. Ra'i literally means opinion. Okay, this is where the commentator goes to great length and he explains what he thinks is the meaning of the verses. Okay, so one of those examples would be Tafhim al-Quran. Okay, so Tafhim al-Quran, Maulana Maududi, great tafsir. Yeah, this is a ra'i. This is known as a tafsir al-ra'i, meaning the Quran has been explained through the Mufassir's understanding. Okay, so you'll find when you read it, he'll come with a verse, okay, and then he will explain it what he thinks, and that's known as al-ra'i. Both of these are fantastic and great, but they're just two different types of tafsir. This one's got more human interaction into it. This one's got less. It's more textual. Okay, so that's just a summary explaining to you the two types of tafsir. Okay, and then the last science, the science of Quran, is things to do with the technicalities of the Quran, like which surah is Makki, which surah is Madani, what was revealed in Mecca, what was revealed in Medina, or things like An-Nasikh wal-Mansukh. There are things in the Quran, I don't want to push you too far, but Nasikh and Mansukh are things that are abrogated, and those verses that abrogate other verses. Like there were times things came to the companions, and that was a rule at that time, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed the rules. Okay? This is a massive science. But then Allah came and changed the rules. So at one point they were allowed to do something. Allah said you can do that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said another verse saying you can't do that. Okay? So those things were, this is called An-Nasikh wal-Mansukh. It's a massive science, okay, but a very important one. These are all things to deal with the Quran. Also from amongst the sciences of the Quran is the development of the Quran itself. Okay? How do we have the Mus'haf that's in front of us today? The Prophet didn't have that. How do we have that? Okay? It's important for us to learn the stages. The Quran was written on bones, it was written on wood, it was memorized. Then the companions memorized it. The Prophet recited with them the Quran. And then after the death of the Prophet, the Quran was compiled into one book in the time of Abu Bakr. Then that book was taken and kept with the Hafsa. And then later on, Uthman decided to compile all of them and make one, because there was many different recitations. And then there was one book, and then that was called the Uthmani script. And that didn't have the Fatah Damas and Qasr. And then later on, the Fatah Damas and Qasrs were included into the Quran. But the point is, I've just summarized to you a very long journey in a few words. Okay? But the Quran that we have today, there was a process how it got to us. But the end result is that the Quran we have in front of us is the same Quran the Prophet recited with Jibreel alayhi salam in the month of Ramadan, and the Prophet completed it with Jibreel alayhi salam. But we need to understand that. Okay? If we don't, then we will find that our opponents, especially the Orientalists, they take this topic and they try to confuse you. Okay? They say to you, this is not the one that he had, it's been changed, it's modified, and will confuse you. So we need to understand these. So make a note of these 4 sciences of the Quran. While you do that, I'm going to just conclude the hadith. The final part of the Prophet who said, whoever is slowed by his deeds will not be hastened forward by his lineage. Okay, what does that mean? يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. That your lineage, whichever tribe your family you're from, whoever you are, whether you're Sayyid or whether you're not Sayyid, it makes no difference Yawm al-Qiyamah. That you are only going to be held accountable and asked about the things you have done or not done. Your lineage does not give you any superiority over anyone else. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhan nasu, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. Verily, O people, we have created you from male and female. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلًا. They have made you in different colors and languages. Why? لِتَعَارَفُوا. So you can recognize one another. And I said this before as well, that imagine if all of us were the same color, we spoke the same language, we had the same food, we had the same, how boring would that be? You go to the same restaurant every Friday, you sit with the same people, same language. We are different colors and people. Why? So that we can enjoy each other's cultures, languages, get to know one another, benefit from one another. That's the whole point. لِتَعَارَفُوا. So you recognize one another. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. That the best of you are not the Sayyids. The best of you are not the Pakistanis. The best of you are أَتْقَاكُمْ. Those with the most taqwa. Irrespective of color, irrespective of language, irrespective of how much money you've got in your pocket. And إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ خَبِيرٌ. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-knowing. Okay? So on that note, I have finished. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask your questions for the next couple of minutes. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. Also those people who are from amongst the best of people, كنتم خير أمة, that you are the best nation. Allah SWT says كنتم. كنتم, if you know the Arabic, is past tense. That you are the best nation, كنتم خير أخرجت, that Allah has put on this earth, تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. That you encourage people to do good and you discourage people to do evil. That's a conditional sentence. Okay, if statement. If you wake up early, you'll get the prize. Yeah, same thing. If you encourage people to do good and discourage them to evil, then you'll be the best of people. So if we're not the best of people now, by default, that means we're not doing what? We're not doing Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. We're not encouraging people to do good things, and we're not discouraging people from doing evil things. That's why we're here when we should be here. Okay? Any other questions? Yeah?
Specific to the concealing the sins of Muslims, not the ones who are doing it openly, and not the ones who are not acknowledged. Because there's the case in the States, in the city I'm not going to mention specifically, except I'm not certain, but there's an imam, a scholar. He had some questionable interactions with a young girl that was under his care.
Okay.
And what do you do in that case? Do they hide it? Do they move to another masjid and sort it, or do they use that as an example to teach?
Okay. So here, I'm not talking about specifics, of course, but in general, we do cover the mistakes of all people, especially those who are in a position of Islamic responsibility. Okay. But like I said, if that involves the rights of another person, you said like there's a child involved. If there's the rights of another person involved, then that must be taken to the authorities. Okay? That child must seek their rights as well. Okay? So we have to remember that concealing people's faults is limited. Yeah? We don't blindly conceal people's faults. They cover their faults as long as they're not interacting or harming anybody else. Okay, any other questions? Sure. Now here, what we're talking about, when I said the tafsir we're talking about, that's the detailed understanding of the Quran. Sometimes you don't need tafsir, you're just reading it, and you can feel it, you can get the connection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of what's taking place. when Allah is talking about the signs of the samawati wal ard wal jibal, and talking about the skies and the heavens and the earth, you don't need tafsir for that. You can do tadabbur, reflect, okay, self-reflection. But when you're reading verses about the akhirah, the punishment of what's going to happen if you do this, the reward of if you're going to do this, these things you don't need tafsir. You can just sit back and actually contemplate, and that's part of tadabbur. But the tafsir is just taking it that one step further. Okay? Like for example, why did Allah mention mountains and then the seas? Why not the seas, then the mountains? So you're going to open the tafsir book and get the details. Okay? But the tadabbur, understanding, you can do that without opening the tafsir book as well. Okay?
I heard some imam saying the best of you are who teaches Quran or who learns Quran. Does that come under taqwa?
That definitely comes under taqwa. Because the person who will learn and teach the Quran is learning and teaching the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the best of duties that a person can give. And even in our societies today, this is something that we should all take note of. Unfortunately, our imams or our imam or our scholars, and this is we're all guilty of, we treat them as the lowest people in our society. Okay? Our imams or our scholars, whether they deserve it or not is a different story. But our religious leaders, we treat them as the lowest in society. We treat the bankers and those in the financial sector at the top, then our doctors and our engineers, they're the ones, Haji Saab, Maulana Saab, they're the ones who we give the most respect to. But those with Islamic knowledge, they're sitting right at the bottom. Now, I'm not saying that we need to treat our imams well and give them lots of money and give them social status. No, I'm not saying that. But if you don't respect those who have the knowledge of Allah, how do you expect you as a community to be respected? If you look at other people, other faiths and other faiths, they actually give a lot of importance to their religious people. Yeah, they put them on a high position. But we treat our religious elite as the lowest of the low. Okay, when you need a service conducted, you'll call the phone, pick the phone up, call him, get him, conduct your service as some kind of formality. When he goes, you continue going back. Many times find out, for example, in a wedding, yeah, people spend, and this is a common example I give. In a wedding, people will spend thousands of pounds on a hall, thousands of pounds on food, thousands of pounds on clothes. Like I was going down the Broadway and I looked at a wedding dress like a lenga now. £3,000, £2,000 for a lehenga that you're going to wear for 45 minutes or for an hour. Horrendous. But they're willing to spend that money happily. They won't even count it. They'll be like, it's okay, let her buy. But when the imam comes, who's going to do the nikah? They say, how much you charge? He says, £50 for the nikah. So, is for Shalomni at least £50? Isn't he embarrassed? He's charging £50 just to do a 2-minute service? That's the way they'll treat it. I'm not saying give him more money. I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about money. I'm not interested in money. I'm showing the respect that you show towards these people. They just gave the most important part of the wedding is in the camp, and that's the part you're just keeping it to the side. The rest of it is all the glory and all the pomp and where the actual process said, make it simple. So this is why we're in the situation that we are in, because those things that are important, we don't treat them as important. Those things that are not important, we make them important. Yeah, that's very true also. In our culture, if a man has, let's say, 3 children, and 2 of them are very intelligent, and 1 of them is not very intelligent, he doesn't get accepted into college, medicine, or engineering, he doesn't get accepted into any university, they say put him into the madrasa, make him an alim. That's very common in our culture. He's got nothing else to do, so make him an alim. So what do you expect? And then when you're sitting at home and you're talking about Islam, you're saying, oh, look at the situation of the Muslims, we need Umar to come back. How is Umar going to come back if those who put him in the madrasa, where Umar came out of, are the least intelligent people of your society? So these are the way our mindsets are.
Still in going Pakistan like this.
Yeah, they still do it. But the point is, we need to start giving respect to the knowledge, seeking the knowledge, and treating those people of knowledge with respect. That doesn't mean give them money, but it means that you treat them with respect. Okay? On that note, inshallah, we conclude. Barakallahu feekum, subhanakallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
ये एक पाकिस्तानी फिल्म है, उसका नाम है ये आदम। एक बाप है, उसके 3 बेटे हैं। ये क्विकली 3 बेटे हैं।
We will be here next week, by the way, guys.
वो ठीक ठाक है, और एक जो है ना वो लेम है, लंगड़ा है। ठीक है? एक को वो पुलिसमैन बनाता है, एक को वकील बनाता है, तीसरे को बस में पढ़ाने के लिए
say that some verses in the Quran are
Okay.
Yeah.
but then I read in one translation that said when you get why was it in the Quran?
I haven't